A lot of people have been watching my how to install Stable Diffusion on Mac tutorial and having trouble installing some of the tools that you need before you install Stable Diffusion. So I'm making this video to help set up your development environment for Stable Diffusion and other machine learning tools. Okay, these are the tools that we are going to set up in this video. We're going to talk about the Hyper Terminal, Oh-My-Zsh, which is a framework and theme library for the Zshell and terminal. Homebrew, which is a package manager. We're going to go into installing Python. Specifically, we're going to talk about installing Python for using Stable Diffusion in the invokeAI repo. We're going to go through the invokeAI repo a little bit, specifically the troubleshooting. And then we're also going to go into the invokeAI README file, specifically the installation section. And I'm going to put links in the description to all of these tools so you can go ahead and find them and to install them yourself. And I'm also going to make video chapters that go through each section of this tutorial, including which errors pop up and the steps to install these different software. So if you only want one of these softwares, just skip to that part of the video and let's get started. So before we go ahead and install these tools, I'm starting from scratch here. I made a new user on my computer to simulate starting from scratch. And the first thing I realized is that this is not going to work if you're not an administrator on Mac. So you want to go ahead and if you're on a secondary user, you want to open up settings from your administrator. And then we go down to users and groups. And you can see the users here. And you want to make sure that the account that you're on is an admin. Okay, now that we're an admin, we can get started. So let's first, I've already installed the Hyper Terminal. So the Hyper Terminal it gives you some more syntax and more functionality than the typical terminal. So it just makes this process a little bit more user-friendly. So I definitely recommend using this. You could also use something like iTerm, or you can use the standard terminal as well. So I already have that installed over here. So the next tool that we're going to discuss is installing Oh-My-Zsh. All right, so let's do this. So this is, again, going to give us more functionality in the terminal and allow us to do things like autocomplete and just make our lives easier as we install these tools. Okay, so first we grab that command and then we go into our terminal. You just open up Hyper or open up your terminal and we will paste in the command on their website. There we go, super easy. We're all set up and you can see here our terminal settings have changed and we now have a little bit better functionality. I can tab through folders and it's a little more user-friendly using this terminal rather than the stock one. There's also a bunch of themes and stuff, but I'll go into that in another video. Okay, so now we have our terminal set up a little bit more. The next thing we're going to do is install Homebrew. And there's two reasons for this. One, Homebrew is a package manager, so it helps you install other libraries on your computer through the terminal. And so, for example, we could install Xcode, or we could install other libraries that you might need for development, like Anaconda, which is a machine learning framework that helps you manage your Python versions. So Homebrew is a good tool to have on your computer in general for development. And the second reason that we're downloading Homebrew is because it comes with Xcode tools. And Xcode is a library that's used for development. And we need that to run the Stable Diffusion. So we want to make sure that we install that as well. And by getting Homebrew, we'll also be getting that. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and install Homebrew, and this installation can take a few minutes, so you might want to get up and get a snack or something, and I'll be right back when this is done installing. Okay, it actually didn't take as long to install as it did previously. It was only about a minute. So now we've installed Homebrew, but you can see here there's a warning, it's not in our path. So that means that the terminal does not know where the Homebrew installation is on our computer, and we need to tell the terminal to connect to that. Thankfully, they give us the commands to do that, so we're just going to copy and paste if that sounds confusing. But the reason I mentioned this in detail is because if you're trying to get Stable Diffusion installed, a lot of the errors I'm seeing people run into are not having Python in their path. So we're going to go into that in the Python step, but I just wanted to mention it now as well. All right, so now we're going to add Homebrew to our path. I don't have my hotkeys because I'm on a new account, so forgive me if I'm a little bit slow and moving here. All right, that's the first one. There's the second command. And here's the third command. All right, now we can test to see if the library is installed by running Brew. And if you see this, that means that Brew is correctly installed. I'm just going to quickly go over to the Brew website just to give some examples of what you can install with Brew. So this is command line interface for the Eclipse code editor. So if you use Eclipse, you get a library there. With Homebrew, there's so many packages. There's definitely a list somewhere of all the packages. It looks like this might be it. Yeah, so you can see how large this list is of software libraries and utilities that you can install with Brew. And this is why Brew is a fundamental tool to have on your computer, because it gives you access to all of these developer libraries that you might need while you start doing things like installing Stable Diffusion or more development environment based software. Okay, so now we have Homebrew installed, and that also installed Xcode, like I said, which is a requirement. So next we're going to go ahead and install Python. Before we go ahead and install Python, actually, let's look at why we need to install a specific version of Python. So if we go over to the invokeAI documentation and go to the installation, and by the way, a lot of people who are running into errors, I would definitely read through basically this whole document if you really want to get Stable Diffusion working, because there's a lot of tips in here on things that could go wrong and how you're supposed to use this software and get it set up. So definitely give this a read, and I'll put the link in the description. But for right now, we're going to look at some of the main points. We'll go over some of the highlights. So is it on troubleshooting, I believe? Installation, sorry, I was on the wrong thing here. Automated installer, that's what we're going to use. Okay, so here we go. This is what we're looking for. So this specifically says here, use 3.9 or 3.10 for Python. 3.9.1 specifically, or 310.x. Okay, that's the version of Python that you want to use in order to get Stable Diffusion with the invokeAI installer. And I'll make a video at another point if you guys are interested. Let me know in the comments on how you can install a bunch of different Python versions and switch between them, because that can be helpful if you're doing different things, different softwares that need different versions. Okay, and you can see that they do not recommend 3.11. So a lot of you might have 3.11 installed on your computer, or you might even have Python 2 installed on your computer, and you need to get one of these supported versions in order to use this tool. So now that we know what Python version we need, let's check which one we have on our computer already. So you can go in your terminal and type Python space -- version. Okay, it doesn't know the Python command here in terminal, but I'm guessing that it does know the Python 3 command, so I have a Python 3 installation, but not a Python 2 installation, and that's fine. But if that is the case for you, you will need to update the script file that invokeAI gives, and I'm going to show you how to do that. It's really easy. You just change one number. Basically, in the script, it says Python, and we just change it to say Python 3. I'll show you that in a few minutes. But so now we know we have 3.10.9. So according to the documentation, I do have the right version of Python to use this tool. So it will work right now. It also, this is where it mentions, I believe, that you need Xcode. Maybe that was on the previous page. it's somewhere in the troubleshooting. It says that you might need Xcode installed. Okay, so I do have the right version, but just for the sake of the video, I'm going to install a different version, and I'm going to show you why I like this version. I'm going to install a different version just to show you that we can successfully update our Python version. And two, there's a reason why this version is better, and that's because the version that I'm going to show you, it comes with an installer that helps you install it, whereas some of the Python versions, if they're a minor version, they don't have the universal installer. So you can see these versions here have the installer. If you're a developer, then totally go for one of the other versions. But if you want to make it as easy as possible for invokeAI, right now I would recommend this 3.10.9 and this installer here, assuming you're on Mac. Or you could go to downloads and choose, Windows. Or if you're on Linux, then you probably don't need help with this. Okay, we'll open up the installer. So this is 3.10.9. So this is the same one I have. So just for the sake of seeing the difference, I'm going to do this 3.10.8. Also has the universal installer, so this would be totally fine as well. But not the 3.11 because they don't support that. All right, so we're going to get out of this 3.9 and we're going to do 10.8. All right, 10.8 installed. Okay, now we'll move that to trash, and now we got to test. So if that worked, this is now going to say 10.8. So first, let's make a new tab so it's refreshed. Oh, I did the wrong thing. There it is, 10.8. So we successfully installed a new version of Python. So if you have the wrong version of Python, just follow those steps. You'll now have the right version of Python. If you installed Homebrew, you'll also have Xcode installed. I believe I can just type, no, that's not the command. But I do have Xcode installed. And now we have everything installed. I want to show you one more thing. So I mentioned the documentation here is a good troubleshooting step. The other troubleshooting step that I would go to is this invokeAI GitHub repo. Again, the link will be in the description. And you can see here there's 433 open issues, 741 closed. So these are all the bugs that people are running into. So when you see in my previous video that people are having trouble installing this, it's because invokeAI is a really new technology that has a lot of bugs right now. And this is a great place to find the solutions to all the bugs that people are running into. So if you really want to get Stable Diffusion running, and it's pretty awesome, I definitely recommend putting the time in to get it set up. Then definitely check this out and search up here. You can search, one error I see a lot of people have is it says Python command not found. Okay, so here's a discussion where someone had that same issue, and there's probably a few more here too. For the record, if you had that issue, what's happening is it's the Python, like here, is not in your path. So the first thing I would try is try running Python 3 instead. If that doesn't work, I've actually written a tutorial on the StarMorph website on how to add Python to your path. So you can go to our website, scroll down to the bottom and go to our blog. I'll put a link for this in the description as well. And this is a guide here on how to add the Python, a Python installation to your path. So you basically run this command that shows the terminal where your Python installation is, just how we did with Homebrew. And I'll give you the commands for that here. So I just know a lot of people have that error, so that's why I mentioned that. And I wanted to show you guys this resource because this is a really good place to find solutions for installing this. All right, so enough talking. We have all of the steps done. Let's go ahead and download the invokeAI tool, and we'll go ahead and install it. So hopefully this setup, we got everything going, and now we can install it correctly. So we go to their GitHub repo, and then we're going to scroll down in the README, and they have a link to the latest release. At the time of this video, that's 2.2.5. If you're on a previous version, they also have a guide here on how to upgrade. And by the way, let me just say that they are really improving this tool. I used one of the older versions and it was absolutely nothing like the version they have now. The speed that they're developing this software is incredibly impressive. So I really feel good about having it on my computer because I'm confident that the next version and the version 3 is going to be amazing. So, it's worth putting the time in to get this stuff set up. All right, so here is the Mac installer. We will grab that. I'm going to minimize this terminal. And we're going to drag this install file. And basically, if this works, I'm gonna end the video and I'm gonna link to my Stable Diffusion installation video, which picks up right here. It starts with running the install file. I made this video because a lot of people were having trouble before they could go to install the file. So if you are up to this point and you're not having an immediate error when you're running this install file, and the installation of Stable Diffusion is beginning, then go ahead and check out my next video if you want help going through that process. And yes, so let's get started. See if this works. Okay, start the install. Default location, Python, command not found. Okay, I forgot to do something. I'm glad we ran into this because this will happen to a lot of people. What we have to do is we have to update one small little thing in the code in this install file. Okay, we're going to open this install file. And we're going to go to line 124. And all we have to do is change this command right here that says Python to Python 3. And save this file. Okay, and now we're going to make a new tab just to be safe. It just helps the terminal refresh. Sometimes you need to do that. Okay, now we're going to try installing again. We made it further. There we go, and our installation is started. So I'm going to end the video here. Thank you very much for watching. Ask any questions you have about installing this in the comments below, and I will try to help you troubleshoot it, and I can make another video that runs into more errors. I just have to figure out a way to replicate them. But I've been helping a lot of people in the comments in my last video, so if you need any help, just let me know. And definitely subscribe and like to this video so you can see our future tutorials on AI tools and web development. And thank you so much for watching this whole video. See you later.